My husband handed me a glass of wine and said, "Drink up. You'll need it." Then he pulled his mistress from behind the curtain, kissed her in front of me, and announced she was pregnant with twins. He expected me to smile and accept it. Instead, I burned his world down. Before I tell you how I destroyed him legally and walked away a winner, hit that subscribe button right now because this story gets darker, messier, and more satisfying than you can imagine. If you've ever wanted revenge served ice cold, keep watching. You won't regret it. My name is Veronica, and for 9 years, I lived in a golden prison. From the outside, my life looked like a fairy tale. A 15-bedroom mansion with marble floors that echoed when I walked alone through empty hallways. A yacht I never wanted. A private island I visited once. My husband, Preston Cole, was a real estate billionaire, and I was supposed to be grateful. That's what he told me every single day. "You should be grateful I chose you, Veronica." As if marrying me was charity work. It didn't start that way. When we met, I was 24, fresh out of architecture school, full of dreams and ambition. Preston was charming, successful, 10 years older. He swept me off my feet with expensive dinners and weekend trips to Paris. He made me feel special, seen, valued. But looking back now, I realized he wasn't falling in love with me. He was studying me, learning my weaknesses, finding the cracks where he could slip his poison in. The change happened slowly. So slowly, I didn't notice until I was already trapped. First, it was small comments about my weight. "Maybe skip dessert tonight, babe." Then it was my hair. "Why don't you straighten it? The natural look is a bit much." Then my skin tone. He'd introduce me to his friends and say, "Isn't she exotic?" Like I was a pet he'd picked up from a shelter. I started seeing myself through his eyes, and I hated what I saw. By year 3, I'd quit my job. He convinced me I wasn't smart enough to keep up in the real world. "Architecture is stressful, honey. Why don't you just relax? I make enough for both of us," so I stayed home. I decorated rooms nobody used. I planned dinner parties where Preston's friends would ignore me while he told jokes at my expense. My wife, she's just decorative, eye candy, you know, and they'd laugh while I smiled and refilled their drinks, dying a little more inside each time. He controlled everything. My phone had tracking apps. My credit cards had spending limits he set. When my mother tried to visit, he'd suddenly schedule a trip. "We'll be in Monaco that week." "Sorry." My friends stopped calling after he made every gathering so uncomfortable they'd leave early. I became a ghost in my own home, wandering through rooms that cost millions, but felt like a tomb. I took sleeping pills just to escape into dreams where I was still myself, where I still mattered. The affairs started around year 3, though I didn't have proof until much later. But I knew you always know. The lipstick that wasn't my shade on his collar, the perfume that made my eyes water when he came home at 3 o'clock in the morning, the locked phone, the private calls, the sudden business trips to cities where he had no business. When I asked, he'd explode. "You're paranoid, Veronica. This is embarrassing. You're embarrassing me." He'd gaslight me so effectively that I'd end up apologizing to him for doubting his faithfulness while he was literally cheating on me. His favorite line was, "Without me, you're nothing." He said it when I looked sad, when I questioned him, when I existed in a way that displeased him. And after 9 years of hearing it, I almost believed it. Almost. Then came that Tuesday evening. Preston texted me at 5. "Wear something nice. Special dinner at home tonight." My heart actually jumped. Maybe this was it. Maybe he'd finally remembered the man he used to be. Maybe we could fix this. I showered, did my makeup carefully, wore the black dress he'd once said made me look beautiful. I even smiled at myself in the mirror, trying to summon hope from the broken pieces inside me. When I came downstairs, the dining room was set up beautifully. Candles flickered on the table. Champagne chilled in a bucket. There were 3 place settings. 3. My stomach dropped, but I pushed the feeling away. Maybe a business associate. Maybe his mother. The doorbell rang. Preston answered it with this smile I'd never seen before. Warm, genuine, excited. He brought in a young woman, blonde, maybe 24, wearing a tight dress and heels that clicked on our marble floor. She looked around our home with hungry eyes like she was already measuring it for new curtains. Veronica, Preston said, guiding this woman to the chair next to his, not across from him, next to him. I have exciting news. He poured champagne for all of us, his hand steady while mine shook as I gripped my glass. Then he placed his palm on this woman's belly, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, Jennifer is pregnant with my twins. The room tilted. I heard the words, but they didn't make sense at first. My brain refused to process them. Pregnant twins. This stranger in my home, in my dining room, drinking my champagne. Jennifer will be living here, Preston continued, as casual as if he were discussing the weather. I've prepared the east wing for her. It has beautiful morning light, perfect for a nursery. He squeezed her hand. She smiled at me. This cruel little smirk that said she'd won and I'd lost. I hope you don't mind sharing, Jennifer said, her voice sweet like poison wrapped in sugar. Pressed. And leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. You can stay and behave, Veronica. Be civil, or you can leave tonight with nothing. Your choice. He said it so simply, like he was offering me coffee or tea. Stay and watch him play house with his pregnant mistress or leave with nothing after giving him 9 years of my life. But he wasn't done. Oh no. He wanted to make sure the knife went all the way in. He pulled out a velvet box and opened it. Inside were my grandmother's diamonds, the necklace she'd given me on her deathbed. The only thing I had left of her. I gave these to Jennifer, Preston said. They look better on her anyway. You never wore them, right? I watched Jennifer fasten my grandmother's necklace around her throat, and something inside me went very, very quiet. Not broken. Quiet like the moment before a storm hits. Preston pulled out papers, actual printed papers. New house rules, he announced. You'll move to the guest wing. Smaller bedroom, reduced allowance. Jennifer is the lady of the house now. You'll greet her respectfully. Stay out of her way, and when the babies come, you'll help with them. Think of it as earning your keep. He slid the papers across the table. Sign it or get out tonight. Jennifer was recording this on her phone, giggling. This is going to be fun, she whispered to Preston loud enough for me to hear. My hand shook as I picked up the contract. I looked at these two people sitting in my home, drinking my champagne, wearing my grandmother's jewelry, planning to take my entire life and repurpose it for their amusement. Preston thought I'd crumble. He'd spent 9 years breaking me down, piece by piece, so this moment would be easy. Can I have 24 hours to think? I asked, my voice small. Preston laughed. Actually laughed. Thinking that's new for you, Veronica. Jennifer joined in. Their laughter bouncing off the walls like bullets. Don't take too long, Jennifer added. I'm redecorating your bedroom tomorrow. That wallpaper is hideous. I excused myself and walked to the guest room. I could hear them laughing behind me, celebrating their cruelty. Preston's voice carried down the hall. She'll sign. She has nowhere to go. I made sure of that. What Preston didn't know was that the woman who walked into that guest room wasn't the same woman he'd been destroying for 9 years. 3 months ago, I'd woken up. Really woken up. It happened when I overheard him on the phone telling someone. My wife is basically a vegetable at this point. Completely dependent, completely controlled. The way he said it, with such satisfaction, such pride. That's when I realized he didn't just want a wife, he wanted a victim. And I decided right then that I was done being one. For 3 months, I'd been documenting everything. I installed hidden cameras throughout the house. Tiny things Preston would never notice because he'd never considered me smart enough to pull it off. I recorded his business calls, his illegal dealings, his bribes to city officials. I caught him on camera with his business partner's wife in our bed multiple times. I found his offshore accounts, his fake charities that stole donations, his tax fraud schemes, Every dirty secret, every crime, every betrayal. I'd reconnected with my old mentor, a top divorce attorney who owed me a favor from years ago. We'd been building a case quietly, carefully. Papers were drafted, evidence was compiled. I'd moved my important belongings out weeks ago. Little by little, things Preston never noticed were gone because he never noticed me at all. But that night, looking through the documents one more time, I found something that made my blood run cold. Emails between Preston and a psychiatrist, plans to have me declared mentally unstable. Once she's committed, everything stays mine. No messy divorce, no splitting assets, just a sad story about a wife who lost her mind. Jennifer had replied to these emails. Can't wait to see her dragged out in a straitjacket. LOL. They weren't just trying to humiliate me. They were trying to erase me completely. That's when I knew tomorrow wouldn't be about signing papers or begging. Tomorrow would be about destruction. I barely slept. At 7 in the morning, I showered, did my makeup perfectly, and put on my best power suit, the one I'd worn to my last big presentation before Preston convinced me to quit. I looked in the mirror and saw her again. The woman I used to be, strong, smart, unbreakable. I walked into the dining room where Preston and Jennifer were having breakfast, laughing about something. Preston looked up, surprised to see me dressed like this. Ready to sign? He asked, smirking. Actually, I said, my voice steady and cold. I have something better. I walked up to Preston, looked him right in his arrogant eyes, and slapped him across the face as hard as I could. The sound cracked through the room like thunder. His coffee mug flew off the table, shattering on the marble floor. Jennifer screamed. Before she could move, I turned and slapped her, too, watching my grandmother's diamonds swing against her chest. That's for wearing my grandmother's necklace, I said calmly. Preston lunged up, grabbing my arm roughly. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, you stupid. No, Preston, I interrupted, pulling my arm free. You did. I threw a folder onto the table. Photographs spilled out. Preston with his business partner's wife, bank statements showing his fraud, documents proving his bribery schemes. Jennifer's face went white as she saw photo after photo of Preston with different women. She wasn't special. She was just the latest. 9 months, I said. While you were busy breaking me, I was busy building your coffin. Preston's hands started trembling. Where did you get? I pulled out my laptop and pressed play. Video footage of Preston bribing a city official, his voice crystal clear. That's 10 to 15 years in federal prison, by the way. His phone rang. Then again, his lawyer. Preston, the FBI just contacted me. His business partner, you. Slept with my wife, his board of directors. Emergency meeting. You're being removed effective immediately. I'd sent every piece of evidence to the authorities exactly 1 hour ago. To his business partners, to his board, to the press. His empire was collapsing in real time. And I had front row seats. Jennifer tried to run. I stepped in front of her. Sit down. You wanted to be part of this family? Watch it burn. Then I dropped the final bomb. Oh, Jennifer, honey, those twins you're carrying. You might want to get a DNA test. I pulled out medical records. Preston had a vasectomy 4 years ago. He's sterile. So, either you're lying about being pregnant or those babies belong to someone else. Jennifer's face crumbled. Preston looked at her, betrayal written all over his face. Jennifer, he whispered. They're my ex-boyfriends, she admitted, tears streaming. I just wanted the money. I was going to fake a miscarriage after the wedding. And Preston exploded. He started screaming at Jennifer, calling her every name in the book. She screamed back that he was a broke fraud who couldn't even keep it up without pills. They turned on each other like rabid dogs while I stood there watching the two people who tried to destroy me destroy each other instead. Sirens wailed in the distance. My attorney arrived with movers and a court order. The judge had already ruled. The prenup was invalidated due to fraud. I was getting 70% of everything. The mansion, 3 properties, 50 million in cash, his company stocks, the yacht, the cars, everything. Preston fell to his knees in front of me, actually crying. Please, Veronica, please. I'll change. I'll do anything. Don't do this. I looked down at this man who'd spent 9 years telling me I was nothing without him, who tried to have me committed, who'd brought his pregnant mistress into our home and expected me to serve her. You wanted me to be nothing without you, I said quietly. Let's test that theory. I didn't need to pack. Everything important was already gone. But I did take one thing. I walked over to Jennifer, grabbed my grandmother's necklace, and ripped it off her neck. She yelped. But I didn't care. This was mine. It was the only thing in this entire house that mattered. The staff was lined up in the hallway. As I walked out, they started clapping. Every single one of them. The housekeeper was crying. We always knew you'd find your strength, Mrs. Cole, she whispered. They'd seen everything. They'd hated Preston, too. Behind me, I heard Jennifer being read her rights. Fraud charges. She'd scammed multiple men the same way. Preston was being let out in handcuffs, still crying, still begging. I didn't look back. Not once. I got into my car. Not one of Preston's cars. My car, the one I'd bought with money from selling some stocks I'd hidden in my maiden name years ago. I drove away from that mansion, from that prison, from that life. And with every mile, I felt lighter. 6 months later, my architecture firm has 3 offices. I'm featured in magazines with headlines like, "The woman who destroyed a billionaire and built her own empire." Preston is in federal prison. He lost everything. His business partner sued him. His board removed him. Even his own mother won't take his calls. Jennifer disappeared after the trial. The babies were born and given up for adoption. She's probably running the same scam on some other rich fool somewhere. As for me, I'm thriving. I mentor young black women in business. I design buildings that people actually live in, not monuments to ego. I even started dating again. A kind professor who treats me like I'm precious, but I'm in no rush because I finally learned the truth. Preston tried so hard to hide from me. I don't need anyone to complete me. I'm complete on my own. They tried to bury me, but they didn't know I was a seed. And seeds don't stay buried. They grow. They break through concrete. They become something beautiful and strong and unshakable. He thought he could torture me, replace me, erase me. But every slap, every insult, every cruel word only sharpened my teeth. I didn't just leave him. I dismantled his entire existence and built my empire on the ruins. Some women bend under pressure. Some women break. But me, I became unbreakable. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and subscribe because I have more stories of women who refuse to stay down. Comment below. I am unbreakable. If you're ready to take your power back. And remember, revenge isn't always loud. Some Tim.